Let's talk this brand new 2026 first model year release to the North American market, the Beta ALP X, which is the bike you haven't seen before from a manufacturer you probably haven't even heard of. It's one of the most underrated motorcycle releases of 2026, and today I'm hoping to change that. I want to show you guys this motorcycle wheel to wheel and everything in between so you can get to know this bike in case you're looking for your next motorcycle. This can go on your shopping list, or you can cross it out and go to the next motorcycle right off the bat after watching this video, saving you a trip to the dealership. Before we talk about this motorcycle in particular, let's talk about the manufacturer of it, Beta Motorsports SPA. Unlike what you think, this is not a startup company and it's not Chinese. It's not a new motorcycle manufacturer, even though today might be the first time you're hearing of them. Beta Motorsports SPA is Italian, first of all, and you'd know that if you come closer and look under the gas tank of this motorcycle, there's a decal saying made in Italy, and that's not a lie. Beta is Italian, and it's nothing new. Beta was founded in 1904, so over 120 years ago. Beta, in fact, is older than Yamaha, and it's older than Honda by over half a century. And that's insane to think about. This motorcycle manufacturer that's nowhere to be found is that much older than these reputable brands. Not that the age of the manufacturer means much when it comes to reliability and the quality of parts, but that for sure brings over a century of experience building motorcycles here to the table. Beta Motorsports was making bicycles up until World War II, and after that they switched to motorcycles, and up to today they have been pretty much making the same types of motorcycles, all trials and enduro-styled motorcycles. That might be why you haven't heard of them, because if you're a street rider or a sport rider or a naked motorcycle rider or an adventure bike rider, you probably haven't even heard of them because they don't make the bikes that suit your needs. But that changed this year because this is an uncharted territory that they're stepping into, adventure motorcycles. Now, hold on, pause right there, because you're looking at this motorcycle and it doesn't look like an adventure bike, and I agree with you, it doesn't. And I don't think it should be considered one, even though Beta on their website lists this motorcycle under the adventure section. You're right, this is not an adventure bike, or if it is, it's not a good adventure bike, because where is the 7-gallon gas tank to take you way out of the city? Where are the baggage compartments here? This bike has 35 horsepower and 23 foot-pounds of torque. Is that enough to take you on adventures, you and a passenger and like 100 pounds of cargo in the back up a mountain? It's probably not going to go up any slope. It's not a good adventure bike. There's no moving windshield here with a button go up and down. There is no cruise control. There is no grip warmers or heaters. There's nothing on this motorcycle that would make it a good adventure bike. At best, this could be considered maybe a dirt bike, but even not so good at that, because look at the exhaust pipe. It's almost touching the ground. Look at the fender. It's one of those fenders that hugs the tire. Usually dirt bikes have a floating fender way up here so that it gives you enough clearance for larger items to clear the tire and the fender and not shear off the fender. So it's not that good of a dirt bike either. What this bike really is and should be considered, and if Beta's watching this video, the marketing team should repurpose the audience and where this motorcycle is placed on the website to a scrambler bike, because that's what this really is. It's a more upright, naked motorcycle with fatter tires and a little bit of an off-road look to it. That's all this motorcycle is, and that's how it should be advertised. But anyways, despite all of that, I think you and I are ready to start this video, so let's go wheel to wheel and everything in between on this brand new 2026 Beta ALP X, and see for about $6,500 what you're expecting to get from Beta. Then we're going to get on it, go out there, ride this motorcycle and put its technology and its suspensions and its brakes and its ergonomics to a test. And then we're going to quantify our thoughts and give this motorcycle the Emmy score. Let's go. Let's start off by talking about the guts. On this motorcycle, starting up here, you have that 2.9-gallon gas tank I mentioned in the intro, which conservatively, even if this motorcycle gets you a 50 mile per gallon range, that adds up to about 150 miles of range. One of the reasons why I don't consider this a proper adventure motorcycle. But anyways, coming down from this fuel tank, you're going to have this single-cylinder 348cc engine that makes about 35 horsepower and about 23 foot-pounds of torque. And this engine is a collaboration between Beta and Guangdong Teo Motorcycle Group. And that means, yes, this engine is Chinese built. I mean, so is the iPhone in your pocket. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that this engine is Chinese made. What is not Chinese made these days? But Beta says they had collaborations with this Teo motorcycle group. I don't know what the collaboration is, what percentage of this engine is actually Beta collaborated on, and what percentage Teo built. But for all intents and purposes, this is a Chinese made engine. Coming down from this engine, this is coupled to a 6-speed wet clutch transmission, a very typical transmission here. There's no ingenuity or electronics governance here. It's just a cable pull clutch, nothing special about it. And in front of this whole situation, you will see two radiators, one up here mounted horizontally, that's your coolant. And down here for the lower half, for everything that's in black, there is that oil cooler that circulates the oil throughout the transmission area. What's interesting is this motorcycle comes with a skid plate, but I think it's there just for show. Because first of all, it's made of a dense plastic. It's not aluminum or stainless steel. There's no rigidity to it, really. I don't know what it's going to protect against. Anything hitting that hard enough is going to break right through the skid plate and damage everything that's underneath it. But what's even more interesting is if you look at this motorcycle sideways, the skid plate is not the lowest point of this bike. The catalytic converter is. So you look at it and the catalytic converter is just sticking out. So if you were to hit something and miraculously the skid plate protected everything, it would not protect your exhaust system. Anyways, coming back from this catalytic converter, you get to this puny little exhaust system, which is mounted midpoint right here next to the wheel and not up here like a proper dirt bike, for example, would. Another reason for why I think this motorcycle is not really built for dirt biking and enduro purposes or off-roading, because the exhaust pipe is right here. Anything like a piece of rock could just deform this exhaust system. So those are some of the observations I made when I was looking at this side of the motorcycle. But now it's time to hear how this motorcycle sounds. Moving up here is the first time you're going to start noticing differences between this bike and its more off-roady variant iteration, ALP 4.0. This one being ALP X is more of a street-oriented bike with smaller wheels, a 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch rear wheel, leading to a lower ground clearance and a lower seat height. The other difference is that one has more of an off-road farm look to it, whereas this one has more of a intricate, complex street look to it. And speaking of lights, you do get an LED headlight and an LED tail light, but not LED turn signal. So there's that. And also this one comes in different colors than ALP 4 comes. I think the ALP 4 for 2026 comes in white and red. This one comes in dark or light gray. These are some of the differences between the two motorcycles. Other than that, the price point, engine, clutch, hardware, brakes, suspensions, everything else is pretty much the same on the two variants. But speaking of this one, 19-inch up here, you have a single brake on the left side in line with the low displacement of this motorcycle. You don't have dual brakes, you only have a single brake. Save costs, and that's all that's really needed on this motorcycle. It's a 290mm rotor, so a standard size front rotor with a Nissin brake up here. We're gonna see on our right how well this brake performs. In the back, you have a smaller brake, 220mm rotor, and that brake in the back is Beta badged. It's not Nissin badged. I don't know if that means Beta made it or if Nissin made it and Beta paid them to have Beta's logo on it. But that's what you have back there, and they're both ABS equipped. And on the handlebar, there's a sticker that alerts you. If you're going off-road, make sure you don't forget to turn off your ABS, which is helpful. Now let's move up here and talk about technology on this bike, which you essentially get nothing. You just get ABS and you get ride modes, off-road, on-road, and that's about it. But the crown jewel of technologies you get on this motorcycle is this TFT screen, full color, as nice as any other TFT screen. There are MV Agusta Brutalis that are worth $45,000 that I reviewed that have the same TFT screen on them, and you have it on a $6,500 bike as well. Starting over here, you have this weird knob that I have never seen before implemented here. Maybe it was inspired by BMW drive knob, which allows you to scroll through the TFT screen. They have mounted that horizontally here, but this one is not related to your TFT screen at all. This just enables you to turn on and off your high beam. This overcomplicated button mechanism here is just to do one thing, and that's turn on your high beam or turn it off. On the back of the handlebar, you'd see two buttons, ADJ and SEL. ADJ is just to go adjust the parameters of your TFT screen, like the clock and the language. If you want to go English to Chinese and Chinese to English language, you can do that. And select just presses on the options you have picked. There's really no more functionality given to these buttons. And then you have turn signals, and of course the stop button. Nothing complicated on this motorcycle, no groundbreaking technology, very simple, and that's in line with the price point of this motorcycle. And moving up here, you're gonna see two keyholes. One is up here, and when you unlock, you realize there's a gas tank under it, and if you move back here and you unlock this keyhole, the entire seat comes off. And that gives you immediate access to the battery without a need to get any toolboxes out. In fact, I couldn't even find a toolbox on this motorcycle. I'm not sure if it's a demo and they remove the toolbox off of it, or if it just doesn't come with any toolboxes at all. If you have this bike, let us know. And when you remove the seat, there is a third Made in Italy badge right back here to remind you this bike is made in Italy. And with all of that out of the way, I think you and I are ready to take this motorcycle out on the road and give it a try. But before we do that, a huge shout out to Ever Power Sports for allowing us to have this motorcycle for the day so I can show you guys what this bike is made of to save you a trip to your dealership. If you don't like it, you drop it now. And if you do like this motorcycle, only now should you go to the dealership and test ride one for yourself. With all of that, let's go and ride this motorcycle. Oh, I think the high beam's on. To turn off high beam, you have to turn this down. This knob over here. Oh, I did not adjust my mirrors. The motorcycle is really thin. You can see the radiator is sticking out on both sides of the motorcycle, and that's probably the smallest radiator that I could find. And it's still sticking out. A very strong front brake. Like I'm barely touching the handlebar and it's almost an on or off instead of a spectrum. The suspension's so soft that even though I'm 5'7" and this is a 34-ish inch height, seat height, I'm still able to flat foot because the suspensions just get compressed under load. Not too bad, honestly. Seems like we can get up to speed pretty quickly. That's nice. The turn signal switch is very weird. It's like a it's a rocker switch that does not come back to zero, so it stays in. That's kind of interesting. I mean, nothing wrong with it, but that might be the license plate that's on the motorcycle that's making all this noise. Hopefully it's still on. Yes, I was saying about the turn signal switch. It's the weirdest turn signal switch I've seen.
motorcycle is really light at 313 pounds wet. It's very throw-aroundable. It's super thin. It makes you want to act like a hooligan, honestly, out here. The fact that it's so versatile. The only complaint is it's pretty hard to find neutral, and I'm not satisfied that I found it. I'm gonna go ahead and trust that it's not gonna shift automatically. One thing that some of the other rivals have, I'm not sure if they have them on their kind of like run to the litter, kind of the smaller, cheaper versions or not. But for example, Kawasaki on a lot of their motorcycles have a positive neutral finder or something in that realm. I don't know what exactly it's called, but essentially neutral, it's not a half gear, it's its own gear. So if you are in gear 1 and you do a full tap, if you're stopped, your speed is 0, motorcycle recognizes that as you wanting to go to neutral. So it goes from 1 to neutral and then neutral to 2. Whereas if you're in the motion, you go 1 to 2 with a full tap directly, bypassing neutral. That way, if you're like behind a red light like me, you don't have to fiddle around with the the foot control here trying to get this to neutral gear. It automatically just goes there as a full gear independently. I honestly recommend that to every motorcycle at every price point. If they can just program that somehow, that would be awesome. This motorcycle red lines at 12,000 RPM. That's insane. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna get used to the turn signal key. Nice. Let's go back to Ever Power Sports.
And now onto the ME score for the 2026 Beta ALP X. Viewers have spoken, and I listened. I have revamped ME score structure to more accurately judge the bikes I review, including putting more emphasis on the MSRP of a motorcycle and scoring bikes for features that matter to the mission the bike was designed for. If you want to know more about how the scoring is calculated, look at the bottom right of each slide. With that said, in the commuter category, you get LED lighting, dual-channel ABS with an off-road mode, and a TFT color dash that shows speed, gear position, range, fuel, fuel level, and trip meter. As for pricing, this bike is averagely priced at $6,490 and here you can see a comparison between it and some of its competitors price-wise. Beta is an established brand outside of the United States, but not so much in the US, so speaking of reliability, it should hold up well, but parts and labeler availability is not on par with its Japanese counterparts. It gets a 16 out of 20 for the commuter category. Now onto the mission-specific features and design. You get tires that are slightly larger than you need for street riding and slightly smaller than you need for dirt riding. Doesn't hurt your street riding experience, but definitely diminishes its dirt riding abilities. The 4.0 version comes with larger tires and they are spoked. You do get long traveling suspensions, front about 7.3 inches and rear about 7.7 inches. And ground clearance is pretty good at 10.2 inches. The 348cc engine delivers a claimed 35 horsepower and about 23 foot-pounds of torque. In comparison to rivals, it offers more engine size than some of the 250 to 300cc machines while staying relatively light. With a curb weight of about 331 pounds, it is lighter than many big adventure bikes. Design-wise, the styling leans modern Italian with sharper bodywork, a round LED headlight, and the urban adventure wheel package. It's a relatively clutter-free bike, good for those of you who get overstimulated easily when you encounter complex dashboards and buttons. It gets a 12 out of 20 for the overall total mission features and styling. And it sits here on the list of other naked bikes I have reviewed, almost beating every other bike except the legendary BMW F900R. Keep in mind, this bike scored well only because we judged it as a naked bike. If it was compared to a real adventure bike, its score would have tanked. It just doesn't check any true ADV boxes. And yeah, I know, any bike can be an adventure bike if you're having fun on it, right? Sure, but here we are using a stricter definition for what an ADV bike should be. The 2026 Beta ALP X is a mix of approachable power, Italian style, and dual sport capability. Great for commuting, light trails, and weekend exploring. If you want one bike that does a bit of everything and stands out from the crowd, well, this could be it. Thanks for watching.